Really?
Yes.
Ah, okay. That I thought why it's like 7 p.m. in my car because my phone shows it's 6.
Yeah, it was this week.
Yeah. All right. So here I got this, guys, so far. I have this right now. So here I will put you guys instead of if you didn't, I'll just put you. So tomorrow you should have, or like on Wednesday, you should have regularly a class from 6 to 9, right? You have from 6 to 9. So basically at 6, you should be here in class, right? Studying. So I believe what I can do is I can put this student right here. Because it's 6:15. All right, and then here I can put one of the students. All right. By the way, can you see my screen online, students?
No.
Okay. Share it. Desktop 1. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm writing your names right here if you didn't. Because on Thursday, ideally, you have a class, right? At 6. So I think I can write your names here. Okay. All right, and there are also 2 more spots available. Okay. Any questions, guys, so far?
So hi. So what time I'm getting mock interview? Like 8:25?
7:45. 7:45
Maybe
p.m.
7:45 till 8:25.
Yes.
Okay.
I had something to tell. So I'll be giving you so starting from next week you'll be having test automation classes, and there will be another instructor who's gonna give like 3 classes. You're gonna have a soft skills, and then one day will be with me, one of those 4 technical days. So it's another teacher, instructor. His name is Bek Sultan. Yeah, Bek Sultan Bayke. All right. Any questions so far, guys?
So this mock
Hi,
interview
Joe.
tomorrow? It's tomorrow, Joe?
No, it's on Thursday. So today it's Tuesday. It's gonna be on Thursday.
Thursday. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Can you do before 4? Because it's gonna be 5 p.m. in Philadelphia. So after 5, my kids are at home. It will be better,
So-
to tell me.
I think you have 2 microphones, right? And right now we are using, maybe you're using the one that
I'm
you
sorry?
don't want. Can you change your microphone maybe? I believe we
Hmm.
had this kind of
Yeah.
situation before when you changed it. I think you can just switch.
Yes, sorry. Can you do before 4 or that's the earliest time when you are available?
It's not me actually.
Who is it?
Maybe Bahabayke. So the thing is this, we cannot do it before 4. So
Okay.
yeah, maybe on Friday you would be able to do it with Bahabayke.
Okay. Thanks.
Earlier than 4. But if you find here time spot that suits you, you can just write your name. So we have here 2 more.
Okay, then 4:45, can you write my name for
Yeah.
Thursday? Thanks.
All right. Okay. So for today, guys, we have are you proud of yourself, guys?
No?
Are you proud of yourself? How about online students?
That we completed Java?
Yeah.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, I'm also proud, guys, of each of you. So there were a lot of students who were not submitting home assignments, but I'm still proud, and you should be proud. But one thing to tell you, when you start the automation part, test automation part, don't think about those topics where you're not as strong as you would like to be in Java, because when you start the test automation, there will be new other tools that you're gonna learn, and you have all chance to catch up others if you learn them better. If you like dedicate yourself, commit more hours to those automation tools, you could catch up others. So because you're gonna start something from zero. Of course, you'll be using Java, but for that part, Java is always important. But what I mean is you have a chance to catch up others if you are behind by studying this test automation tools a little bit harder. All right. Today, guys, we'll go over some of the key concepts that we learned so far. Just random question. Let me come up with just random question. What's the difference between while loop and do while loop?
While loop and do while loop?
Yeah. How are you?
Can I answer for that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in while loop, the condition is checked first and then it's executed. And in do while loop, it's first we execute and then after the condition is checked at the end. So in do while loop, we have at least one output always, but in while loop, you can have zero if the condition doesn't meet.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go over some essentials of exceptions. What types of exceptions do you know?
Checked, unchecked.
Yeah, there are checked and unchecked. Okay, there are main two types. And who can tell me what's the difference between them?
One checked is during the, I think, compile time, and the other one during the runtime, which covers the arithmetic exceptions. Which, for example, the number can be divided to 0, and the other one is array is out of bound, and the third one, I believe, I forgot the last one. Could someone
Errors, you
remind
mean?
me? Yeah, errors. Yeah.
So checked ones are the ones when compiler requires you to handle them, right? You can move to the running part. It's like IO exception. Unchecked ones are usually programming errors. When you do some programming error, it could be when you would like to call a method on an object which is not initialized, or you would like to access an element that's not in the array. All right. Can you share your ideas about importance of handling exceptions? Just like, what's your idea? What do you think?
So exception is, if we look for definition, it's like special events that can disrupt our flow of code. which we as a testers or developers don't want to our code to occur, because with the disruption, our program can be terminated. And in order to protect it, we need to do exceptions, use the special methods like try and catch or throws to handle these issues with termination of our program.
All right, so we have try blocks and catch blocks. Can you tell me, Claudia, what's the difference between these two blocks, try block and catch block? Um, all right, we have try block and we have catch block. First of all, why do we need these blocks? Why we need them? What creates this demand? Exceptions, right? Exceptions. And okay, to handle those exceptions. So here we have two blocks, one block and second block. What we include in the first block and what we write in the second block?
Thinking, try you using a risky cards, yeah?
Yeah,
And you
exactly. We write here some risky code, yeah?
Yeah.
That might crash our
crash
program.
out, yeah.
And in catch, we write
Message, like
message or
not
code
to
that should
display.
be executed
Execute.
if there is an error, yeah? Right. Try and catch. All right. Can we have this variant, guys? Try, catch, and there is one more catch. Yeah, if we can do so,
Try.
there is a rule to follow in order to have here two catches in a row. How can you have here two catches at the same time just for a single try block?
So there should be like hierarchy law should be followed, right?
Yeah,
Like not followed,
should-
but
it should follow their levels of hierarchy. So it should go from the lower hierarchy, from subclass exception to parent class exception. So if we specify them, it could be arithmetic exception, E, and then here exception. Or if you have here a block of code that might throw one exception, which is arithmetic or null pointer, you can have this null pointer exception because they are on the same level. None of these two is apparent for one. How about this? What do you know about a finally block?
terminate.
What?
Terminate.
Finally block stops the code, right? Terminates. No.
It's close to connection.
Other programmers can use it to finalize something, to close a connection when you read some file, write some file. It can be used to finalize something, to close a connection, or to maybe let's say if you work with databases, close a connection to database. Finally is used to finalize things. All right. Next, is there? I think I'm sure, like all of us have some here topics they're not good at. Do you have any specific topic that you would like to discuss right now? All right. So let's do this. Let's say you write a code. Just let's make this some scenario. Let me open this. So whenever class is over, whenever I go home, I do this. I open this page and I go to this page. I download the class. I click download. I download the class, the video, and then I upload that video to YouTube, and then I edit as a lesson here on TechState, Talent LMS. It takes time to process. Once the class is over, it will take about an hour, maybe more, to process that video. And what do you think? Like, it's possible to automate this thing. I'm not sure for 100% because if I download this, let me try. If I download the file, what's the name for that file? So it's some unknown name. So let's say this. I write some code. These are the videos, guys. This is the video for yesterday's class. This one is for October 31st on Friday, and then on Thursday. So let's say I would like to write a code to find me a video that's recorded on November 6th. What do you think? Will that code find a specific video recorded on November 6th? Do you see here a video recording?
No.
No, there is no November 6th. So if you write some code to find it, what do you think? Will it fail?
Yes.
Yeah.
It will
File
fail.
not found.
So it's not about file not found, but it's about some exception. So it will fail. It won't be able to maybe click or find this kind of button. And then if it cannot find that video, it might crash your program. It might throw an exception. So it crashes the code and it terminates the flow. So your flow is not running smoothly as it should be because there is some special event that you didn't know. Or imagine a day when an instructor just forgot to click that recording button. And then if your code runs, let's say we write some code, that will run every day at 10:30. It will go to this page and we'll click this button, and then click download. Let's say today I forgot to click this record. And then at 10:30, that code runs and it looks what day is it? It's November 5th. In Java, you can write some code that will find out what day is it today based on your computer's time. So let me just write here something like we're just discussing something. We're not writing code right now. So in Java, we can use this local date to get today's date. And let me see, let me try this. So all right, get day of week, and let's try what it displays. it might display Tuesday, Thursday, this Tuesday. All right, and then get value, let's try this. So it's second day of the week, or we can find it this way, get day of month. So today is 5th of November. So if you write some code that will open this page, we find out that we can use some code to find what day is it today. Today is 5th. 5th of what? We can find that it's 5th of it's 5th of November. So we can write a code that will generate today's date. So imagine your code should run, open this page, and then find a recording for November 5th. But imagine I forgot to click that recording button. What do you think? Will it successfully at 10:30 click this button?
Yes, your program will not execute that task.
Yeah, that task won't be executed successfully because at the time of running, when it runs, when it goes to this page, here in the runtime, it will fail. It will throw an exception. You can call it create an exception or throw an exception. There are some tools. There are some tools in the internet. We could write something like this. It's possible, like public void. I'm not sure if it's 100% possible because I cannot beforehand know what will be the name of that video. If I click this download button, it downloads me a video with some name that I cannot know beforehand. I cannot know that it's title for this video beforehand. But let's say I can know. So public void download video, and then there are some tools to make this method running every day or every minute. It's possible every minute or maybe every day 7 p.m. something, let's say like this, schedule annotation. You know this annotation, right? Override. But there could be this kind of annotation as well. If you take some libraries from the internet, schedule, and then I'll just write here something like run, but it's not gonna work because I don't have those libraries from the internet. So you could write here something like I'll just write this so that it's clear for you every day at 10:30 p.m. because but by 10:30 p.m. the class recording will be already processed. So every day it will download that video. And then I forgot to click that record button. Is it true that inside this method, some exception will be thrown? If I forgot, yeah, there could be an exception like we cannot find that button, this button. We cannot find this button because we don't have here cloud recording for 5th of November. And then it will just terminate the code. But you can write some exception handler. What could be that inside that exception handler? Maybe that exception handler, like if I really want, it is something that like we can implement. Like you can write some code that will do it every day for you. It will download the video, but I'm not sure for the second part, will it be able to upload the video automatically to YouTube? Because it should be signed in for the Zoom as well. I'm not sure if we'll be able to just go through that part, that protected part where you should sign in first. So if it fails, if it's not able to find that, if your code is not able to find that video for November 5th, in the catch part some code that downloads a class recording. Public void download. And then here we have something like this. Run this method every day at 10:30 p.m. And then here I have some code that downloads a class recording. I have this. And then if it fails to download that recording, then in catch block, maybe we could have some code to write you a message to your WhatsApp group. Hey student, sorry, probably your instructor forgot to click that record button, so you won't be able to see today's class. So in catch block, we can perform something that should be done if this action is failed. If this action is failed, we could have some text document. And in catch block, what this will do, it will write a message to so let's say if it has failed, then write a text message to output log file. It runs every day, but today, on 5th of November, it will write here in this text document automatically. 5th November, failed to download class recording. This is something that we can do in case if it's failed. Or we could write some email. We could write some email to students, or we could just log it somewhere. I don't mean that whenever something fails, you should always write a text message or something to your file. So you in the catch part, there should be some action that should be performed if this code fails. So in the try block, we have some code that might fail. In catch block, we have some code that should run if this code fails.
If it's not fails.
Then code is downloaded. If it's not failing, then code will be downloaded. Some code that downloads.
Catch block.
So catch block runs if it fails. If it doesn't fail, then we are good because the code I wanted to run successfully.
Catch block doesn't work, right? If try is not failed.
Yeah, this is how it works.
In what case will be out of bounds exceptions?
Excuse me?
Out of bound message.
There are
Try is
different.
failed, right?
If what?
If try block is failed, there are out of bound exceptions.
No, there are different types of exception. In case if you work with files, then you might see file not found exception if you work with files. If it is array, if you work with arrays, and then somehow you made a programming error, you tried to access element that doesn't exist, then it will throw array index out of bounds exception. So each case, each error has their own specific type of exception. And what do you think? Can we create exceptions on purpose?
Yes.
Catch block. All right, how do we do it? How can we create exceptions? There is something that might confuse you. So let me write here. It's 2. What's the difference between create exception, create user defined exception, and this What's the difference between create user-defined exception and throw an exception? What's the difference between these two? Is there a difference? What do you think, Tim? Is there a difference between these two lines? Creating a user-defined exception and throwing an exception.
File what is failed, it will throw an exception.
No. Is there a student who can answer this? What's the difference between these two phrases? Create user-defined exception and throw an exception.
Thinking logically. With user-defined exception, it means that you're creating a right time, a right, like you're just scheduling the
No.
date and the time
No.
exception. Like definite.
What's the difference between throw and throws? Throw and throws. Tim, do you know what's their difference?
I guess Tim knows, he was trying to explain.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking him. He's smart. Throw and throws. Any other students who can share their answer, their ideas?
Throw, it's just one exception, and throw stand.
No.
Yeah.
I know that throws declares the exceptions, right? The second one.
Okay, we have here two things. Throw keyword and we have throws keyword. Where this throw keyword can be used? What's the purpose of throw keyword? Where is it used? It's used to break the code. If you would like to break someone's code, you can use throw. Really. If you would like to break your code, you can use throw. So throw keyword, I'm gonna write here, throw new exception. Throw new runtime exception. So this line will create an exception. This line will create an exception. If here exception is created, then you won't be able to run this line. If I do this, then it displays November 5 and then exception. So exception is created on line 11. Line 11, there is an exception. Throw new runtime exception. So throw new is used for what? Mainly. Word by word.
Creating exception.
Creating an exception or breaking your code. Breaking the flow of the program. If I had here some other code, let's say it's not just hello world, some very, very important code, then this line would break our code. We are not able to reach this line. So throw keyword is used to throw keyword is used to
Create exception.
create exception. Break the code. Create exception. But it's not really creating exception. I can call it throw an exception. Throw. When I say creating an exception, I would mean this. So I'm in package day 63. So let's say video is not found. I can create some exception called video is not found exception. So right now, this is just a regular class. But if I make this inheritance extends runtime exception, now it's not a regular class. It is exception. Video is not found. So actually, this could be a good one if we have here this method, public void download video. We have that annotation like schedule, run it every day at 10:30 p.m. And then here in the try block, we have some code. I'm not writing that code, but let's say we have some code that downloads what? That exception, or downloads that video class recording. But if it doesn't find that class recording, we can make it this. If it doesn't find class recording, we throw on purpose, we do it. We throw video is not found exception. We write here throw new video is not found exception. And then here in the catch block, we catch that exception. Video is not found exception E, this. In Java, we don't have this exception. I created this exception myself. So if I ask you, can you create your own exceptions in Java? What would you answer? Yes or no?
Yes.
The answer is yes. If you extend one of those exception classes, a runtime exception or exception class. So you can create your own exceptions. So create user-defined exception. Answer for this one would be create a class. It could be video is not found exception and inherit runtime exception class. So this is how you create user-defined, your own exception class. And this one, throw an exception is, it's when you write there throw new, it could be runtime exception. Throw new runtime exception. So throw an exception. We have, if I write here throw new runtime exception, it will terminate the code. So it interrupts the normal flow of the code. It will stop the code right here on the line 9. Our program is terminated. The error is runtime exception. Using throw new runtime exception, you can stop the program. When you throw new runtime exception, you terminate the code. So throw exception is used to break the code. Throw an exception. I can write it right here. How about throws keyword? Where did you see this throws keyword?
In method signature.
Yeah, in the method signature. So if you create some code that works with files or with SQL, SQL is a language that runs some queries. It queries the database. So there should be connection to your database. And when you have a connection to database, there might show up this exception, IO exception, not IO, checked exception, SQL exception. There is some exception called SQL exception, and it is runtime exception. No, not runtime, checked one, compile time. So if I write here throw new SQL exception, now it's red because it's compile time exception. If I write here runtime exception, there is no red line because it is unchecked exception. So if you have this, what you can do is there are two things we can do it right now to avoid this red line. What can we do? What are those two ways? What this line says?
Create exception.
Create exception, break the code, and then we can save our code. There are two ways to save this code. One way is using one of them is using try catch block. The other way is using method signature. But this method signature is not gonna save this one, throws not gonna save your method. It's not gonna save it because what throws does is it's just letting your code run. But if there is something that throws an exception, you are in charge of that exception. This throws just letting you to run that code. It's not handling that error. It's just handling. Is used in the method signature. Is used to run the code, but doesn't handle the exception. It doesn't handle the exception. It doesn't save your method. So next, guys, for today, guys, do you think, guys, we have worked on some project called library management system?
Yes.
All right. So what can you tell me about that library management system project?
It is interactive like system where the user decides like what option to choose and what to do with that system.
Yeah, so there are, it could be like, it could be a game, an application where you have options. It could be not really interesting game, but there are some options to add books, remove books, update books, and find that books by their ID. What we'll do this, guys, today is we're gonna create library management system level 2, the other version of this project, where we're gonna add their students and teachers. And the students and teachers, they'll be able to, what do you think, guys? What student can do with books? They can read books, yeah? If book is in library. If book belongs to library, student wants to read that book. What students does? What student does? They cannot just take it, right? They need to borrow it, right? For some time. And then we could create these restrictions in the app. Teacher is able to borrow 3 times, like 3 books at a time, but student is able to borrow only 1 book. So I have everything right here. Let me. All right. Can you see this, online students?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna create library management system, the second version of our program. So this is simple application that manages the collection of books in the library. We can borrow those books, and if you're done with that book, you read this book, then you can return that book to the library. If we have some book in the library, let's say we have book named Harry Potter, but it's already borrowed by me. What do you think? Will you be able to borrow that book if it's already in my hands?
No.
No. So books will have two states, available and not available. There will be limits specific to roles. If it's a teacher can borrow 3 books. So there you use CRUD operations to create a book, to create a teacher, to create a student, updates, deletes, and collections. So these are the setup classes. Let's do this. Open your IntelliJ IDEA, create the package day 63. Inside this package day 63, create a package, another package called library, just library. All right, did you create this package? All right, next step is this. So we'll need some classes. We'll need person class, teacher class, student class, book class. So for this one, we don't need library item. For book and DVD, we have only one class that represents library items, which is a book class. So first, let's do this. Create a person class. Create a person class. It has the following attributes: person ID, string name, max books allowed, every list of borrowed books. Create this class and the following attributes in the library package, right? So create this. So before guys, before creating, what do you think? Maybe we can add some feature that you think about. Maybe we have here, we could have some feature. If you have some ideas, maybe we can add something. Is there something that could be added to this app? We have already this return feature. We have borrow feature. Maybe there are some creative students who can think out of the box and come up with some new feature.
We can do like if they return the book late to find the students, but it's just one idea. If it passes certain days, I don't know.
Yeah, we can have this kind of thing. To have a due date, right? For that
Yeah.
book to be. For that thing, we would need to create a another class, a special service that will store when some book is borrowed and when it should be returned. But we cannot make this kind of thing like, no, I think we can, but we will just simulate the dates. Today is 5th of November. No, we have this at books. What we could do is we could simulate the day when it's returned, because we cannot make it 6th of November, today's date. We can do this, or we could also have a history of the library. When some book was borrowed and when it was returned. What do you think? If library has a history.
Mhm.
So it will have a history when some book is borrowed by a specific person. It could be a teacher or student, and there will be a date. And then when it's returned, there will be another history item there that tells you that this book is returned at the given time. We could there do this kind of thing, like check whether it's returned on time or not. So first, let's do this. Create this person class with the given attributes, create its constructor, getter and setter, and these three methods. Let's create the skeleton for this project.
Those attributes should be private, right? Or like,
Exactly. They should be private, all attributes. So private int person ID. All right. And when you write this array list book, borrowed books, this part should be red.
Yes. Create a new box.
Array list, it should be red because we don't have a book class here. Let's do this. Array private should be private. Array list. Don't import, guys. Don't import another class from other package because it will be other book class. We need a specific book class exactly for this project. Make it books, new array list. And then we do this. We create in this library package a class book. Just create one class book, and that's it. You can just hide it. Create this book class and then hide it. There should be a book class, create it here, and then just we hide it. And then we continue with this class.
Not borrowed, just books, yeah?
It could be borrowed books. I'll just name it books. So let's see. What's the name? You can make it borrowed books. Borrowed books. And next step is to create constructor, getters and setters. And then right after you create this constructor getters and setters, create these three methods. Public void borrow a book. Let me just check one thing. Borrow a book, return a book. If we borrow a book, so we don't need this. Two methods. Create this method, display borrowed books. For now, let's create just the plan. Just the classes, the properties, and we'll move the logic behind these methods later. So you should have this here, public void. What should be? The name is display borrowed books. Display borrowed books, and that's it. Don't touch it. We'll come back later. Next step is this. Let me move it here. Next step is create this class. Create class teacher. And student classes. Student and teacher classes, and they should inherit from person class.
Excuse me, Joe. Can you a little bit zoom it?
Yeah. Here. Is it better?
Yeah, thank you.
Create just one method, display borrow books.
Display borrowed books, yeah, there should be only one method for person class. And then create these two classes, teacher class and student class. And they have by one specific attributes. Teacher has string subject, subject they teach. Student has favorite subject.
Joe, what's the access modifier of string subject? Is default?
No. For all attributes, let's make them all private.
Wait, okay.
So let me create it as well. All right, so here, when you create this private string of subject, and when you make this extends, let's go back to the person class, go back here, and then do you have there a constructor? How many parameters does your constructor accept?
5.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Four.
4, yeah?
Four.
Let's do this. you can remove this one, this borrowed books, because we'll add those books using special methods. So you can write here this borrowed books, and then remove this parameter. Or I think for you it will be much easier. You can remove this constructor, create this constructor again, but you should not include this one, borrowed books property. It should be person, name, and max books allowed. Only 3 properties for the constructor's parameters. Only 3. So make sure you changed your constructor, because otherwise you're gonna have those red lines. All right, did you remove and then create your constructor again with only 3 parameters? Next, so here now we can create the constructor for this teacher. I can create it. It accepts person ID, name, max books allowed. All right, but here we have, do you think, guys, it's a right constructor for this teacher class?
No, it should be string subject should be included.
Yeah, this constructor accepts only 3 parameters. There should be one more parameter, subject. Person ID, name, max books allowed, and string subject.
Can we just type it manually, or we should go run this, try to run this code?
Like,
with
do you
the
mean
hotkeys?
you
Just delete this array list books, borrowed books, just delete manually, or we should just run it again?
you can use any of these ways.
Mm,
What do you make like quicker? Do that one.
borrowed books.
All right. So once this constructor is created, now create the getters and setters. Get subject and set subject. Get subject and set subject.
Excuse me, Joe. Can you show the person class, please?
Yeah. So here constructor is changed. Now it accepts only 3 parameters. It used to accept 4 parameters. Array list as well.
Well, you finished?
I think he. All right, we can move to the other class, right?
Could you repeat the last one? And
So create this constructor, guys, and then getters and setter. Next.
could you just show it again, please?
There should be a student class, guys. The student class will be almost the same as teacher class. Almost the same, but student class will have, instead of this string subject, their own attribute called favorite subject. Constructor, getter, and setter.
Can you open the person class?
Person class? All right. What do you need from this class? So which part are you writing? Because I think I can help you verbally. Like you can use a shortcut. Yeah. So what are you doing?
Get subject.
Yeah, you don't need to type them. You can use the getter and setter. So now create this student class. All right, so this student class should be created. Student class, and it should have one field. There it's subject. There should be a constructor. And yeah. But we missed the extends person, and then only can create the constructor. So we are done with the student class. Favorite subject, and then extends person, and then only create the constructor. So here, next class to create is a book class. Book class has ID attribute, title attribute, author attribute, and one Boolean attribute, whether you check if it's available or not. No.
The start of the person.
Oh yeah, we created, yeah. So create this, yeah, define these attributes and methods in this book class.
Joe, we need to create all of methods.
Yeah, they should be there.
What if we can add one more string like date of produce for book?
It could be a
No, it will be not Boolean, it will be like this.
it could be a string, or it
Yes,
could be a local date, something like this. But we'll keep only this four. So there should be a book class, and inside the book class we have book ID. We have book title. We have author, and we have Boolean is available. And then create its constructor for this book. There should be a constructor. constructor, getters, and setters. So this book class should have its constructor. All right, it should have its constructor, accepting all 4 parameters. Getter and setters.
New students, yeah.
It was also the construction and that person.
There should be a constructor to initialize getters and setters to access those properties. Next thing is, what are those 3 methods that should be created? Public void, first one is borrow book. There are 3 methods to be created.
Return book.
Public void. Public void.
Bullet.
All right. So if you can see, guys, here we already have from setter a method is available. Do you have also this red line?
No.
We create a return type in
I
the body.
So I understand why you may or may not have this. Maybe you first create this 3 methods and then you create the getters and setters. That's why you may not see this. So actually, borrow book. What this borrow book should do, guys? What should it do? This borrow book method.
To retrieve maybe.
Here it says it
Get
should mark the book as borrowed. When
Get the
some book
book.
is borrowed. I'm sorry.
Borrow means get the book, right?
No. So
Oh.
what here we will do is, if it would mean get the book, then it would be like this method to return a book. But what we'll do is, here it tells you guys, it should mark the book as borrowed if it is available. When book is borrowed, how book should change? What's a property that should be changed in the book if we borrow a book?
Not available.
It should be, yeah, no more available, right? So here, borrow a book. Borrow a book, guys, is already implemented here in one of these getters and setters. Find it, guys.
Right.
Yeah, find out where we already implemented this borrow book. We already have this method, but with other
Then
name.
it's not available, yeah?
We already have this method, but with other name.
Get title also.
I guess it's in one book class.
What this method should do?
So I think it's not available.
It should make some book not available. So we already have a method similar to borrow book. What we were planning to do in this borrow book is to make is available false. But we have already here in one of these methods similar to this one. Do you see here any similar method?
That available, yes.
It's pretty similar. So we can just reuse this method. We'll be reusing this method. What we'll do, guys, is this. Let's remove this borrow book. We'll be using the setter method. And for return book, we'll again use set available method. This one. So we don't need this. Yeah. When you set available or not, we will pass here Boolean or like true value or false values. So then is available method. Do you already have this method? If you already have it, then just do this. Remove it this way. So we plan to have these 3 methods, guys. Then we removed all of them. Yeah. So I'm gonna do this strike through. We don't need them. All right. So you should have in this method 4 properties, constructor, and getters and setters. Next. Next, guys, is this. Create this library class. Create this. Create the next class, library class, and then there should be 2 attributes. And constructor for this class, guys, we're gonna create together. So no need to create a constructor yet. So create library class, 2 attributes, array list of books, array list of people.
Excuse me, Joe, library class is the main class, right? Parent class. Or
No,
person, or we didn't create the main class yet.
no, we didn't create the main class yet. Main class
Ah.
will be library management. So
Okay.
here we're gonna create the main method.
Okay, thanks.
So library class is a class to store all those books and people's, we can call them people's accounts maybe. So every teacher and student, if they would like to borrow a book, they will be registered in the library. And actually, I can rename this add person to register member.
Should we copy the methods as well?
Yeah, methods should also be created, but no need to create their implementation part. Just create this method signatures, and you can make those implementation part just empty body.
How about the constructor and getter setter?
You can create getters and setters, but not constructor. We'll create constructor. Actually, we don't need constructor. Only getters and setters.
You need to write in the parentheses book also,
Um,
the method.
yeah, it should be. Let me know, guys, if you created this class, these two attributes, getters and setters for these two attributes, and this all methods. Have you done this, Clara J? Yeah? How about Ziyada J? Yeah? How about online students?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, if so, guys, let's have a 15-minute break. All right.
Bizum'un maksana bakayım. Ulan. William var. Ulan. Ben çok var. Yok da kızlar çok.
Bana şey, tamam tamam. Çay içeriz. Çay içeriz dedim.
All right, online students, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so let me create this things very quickly. There is a library class. In this library class, we have an array list of books. And then here we have an array list of people. And then here we have getters and setters. And then here we have this methods, public void add book, and then public void. The other method is register member, borrow book. All right. Public void register member takes a person. And then the other one is public void borrow book. So in order to borrow a book, we should have two things, two parameters. There should be a person, it could be a teacher or student who would like to borrow that book. And each book has their specific ID. So we need a person, teacher, and a specific book ID. And then we match them if book is available. So let's say I am a student and I would like to borrow a book. And I would like to borrow a book with ID 3. Now, in order to borrow that book, to make this action, what should we check?
ID, person.
If I have available slots for books, if I didn't reach the maximum number of books I can borrow, and then the other thing is check whether that book is available. So that's why we should have here two things to borrow a book.
In library,
Yeah. Book ID. So book ID and then return a book. Public void. Return a book. Person and books ID. And then here we should have find book by ID. Public void find book by ID. Here we pass the book's ID. And then display all books. Do you have? Remove book by ID. Power void remove book by ID. Int. So if we need to remove a book from library, if you need to get rid of some book, what should we check? Yeah, if I would like to remove a books from library, if I'm a person, administrator in that library.
book ID,
Yeah, there should be book ID. Okay, then what should be checked?
by whom it was taken.
Check if it is available or not. If it's available, we can remove it. If it's not available, then we cannot because it's borrowed by some person. Remove book by ID. Display. People. Last one. Okay. So we created this person, teacher, student, book, library classes. Next step, guys, is this. Let me move this here. Not this one. This one. So next step is, guys, create this library management system class and a main method inside it. And then you can create this objects in the main method. Create library object, create two people, teacher object and student object, and then create this three book objects. So, okay. Were you able to create a teacher? Yeah. But its ID is string. So were you able to?
ID string?
Yeah, its ID is string.
Yeah, it's a red underline.
All right, so let's do this. Let's make it
And do
ID1
it yeah.
for student ID2. Let's make it numeric. And then max books allowed, it should be 3. Max books allowed is 3. And subject they teach. Subject is physics. With subject physics. Create this teacher and this student. Right, you done, guys, creating these two objects. Next, you can move to this part, create this 3 book objects, book 1 and book 2.
Joe,
Mhm.
why the person ID is red? I cannot understand it.
For me, there is no any problem. Person ID is 1, 2, name John Smith, max books allowed
Oh.
3, physics.
Oh, okay, thank you. Person ID is int, right?
Yeah, it is int.
Okay. I thought it's a string. Okay.
Yeah, it used to be, but we changed it. It used to be something like this. See, this way.
Okay, thanks.
So now I create here 3 book objects.
So the first object, like, is it available or no?
Let's make all of them available by default. So
Mhm.
in the beginning, they're all available. Is available, okay. Wait, let me know, guys, if you created this all 6 objects. So you done, yeah? Yours what?
Right.
All right, let me help you. So you made some proof. So here, student should have their ID, name, then max books allowed should be 1. And then let's move to the student class. And you don't have here constructor. You see? Because there you pass here parameters. But here there's no constructor.
The colors of the sky.
So hide and then no, this is wrong. You also didn't do this. You didn't make extends to person. And then your person class doesn't have constructor. Once you have constructor here, then we should create here a constructor.
Student from
And then for teacher as well, there should be a constructor. So it extends to one person. And in your book class, I think they don't have constructor. They have constructor, string title, author. You don't need to create it yourself. You can just make. All right. So next step. So we have here 3 book objects. Let's register this. So first, let's understand, guys, what this project is about. So this project is about books, library, 2 different roles. We have 2 different roles. We have teacher role and we have student role, and they have different limits. One has limit of 3 books that they can borrow. The other one has only 1. And they can, student, and they can, then after they read that book, they can return a book. And we have the CRUD operations in the library class. Add book, remove book, find book, register, member. Let's do this. We have library and we have 2 people. These people would like to read these books. So to make this, let's register these people in this library. We're gonna register this teacher and student in this library. What we can do with this library, we can register their people. What are the other things we can do? We can add books, remove books, borrow books from that library. So all methods. What is a method, guys? What's a method?
It's a function to perform a task.
Yeah, it's a function to perform a specific task. And when it comes to these classes, what's the relationship between this method and this class? What does this class mean? Does this method mean to this class? Or we just created it for nothing? What's their relationship? Library, register member. Library, borrow book.
So library as a class can like register, like it has several like actions, or like it can have some behaviors, and usually behaviors are described in these methods. Like it can register, then it can borrow book, and then it can return.
Right. So library can add a book. We can add a book to this library. We can register some member, some teacher to this library. We can borrow book from this library. But to borrow a book, we need that member and specific book to borrow. If somebody is returning a book, there should be a person who is returning that book and ID of that book. So these are the things that could be done on this library object. Things that we can call through library object. We can register a member to this library. Register teacher, register a student. Next. Is it true that our library has 3 books right now?
Yes.
Yeah?
No, in total 5 books we have.
5? We have effective Java, clean code, the pragmatic programmer. What are the other 2?
The Alice Johnson.
These are not books, right? These are people.
I mean, they were taking to one every student.
These are
They took.
These are people, right? I asked how many books we have. We have right now 0 books in the library. 0. Because they are not registered.
Yeah.
They're not registered yet. So we need to register them. Library, add book, book 1, library, add book, book 2, library, add book, book 3. All right. So just call these methods, and then my question, what do you think? Are we really registering teacher and student and then registering these books into this library? Or we just called and nothing has been done behind it?
Yes, we just called, but
We just
nothing is
called.
done.
There is no function behind these methods. Did we implement these methods, Claraja? Team, did we implement these methods? Register member, add book. There is no implementation, no code inside this method. So here inside the library, we have 2 collections, collection of books and collection of people. So if some person would like to be registered in this library, we call on this library, register member. We cannot, it wouldn't be logically correct if we create here in this teacher class, register member. Then if we would like to register this teacher, where do we register him? In the library. Then how do we add this teacher, some object, to library object? We cannot. It's better if we do it from the library side. Register member, we accept some role, it could be a teacher or student, and then we add it to this collection. So what should be done here? We should add this teacher, this student, to this collection. How can we do it? We have a collection, empty collection. I would like to register this person. Person can be a teacher, it can be a student. I'd like to register them in this collection. By register, I mean I would like to add them.
People.add.
People.add. This is it. And then person. And then let's have here a message. a success message telling that person dot get person ID and we can make this actually. Let's make this is added. Have you ever seen, guys, this thing before? Get class get simple name. Have you ever seen this before? How about yesterday's class?
Get class, get message.
When you worked with the exceptions, we had this e.get class.get simple name, and it printed the name of that exception. It printed us like the exception's name. So if we do this with object right here, first just have this. Let's run our library management system's main method right here. Let's run it. It displays 1 is added, 2 is added, but we have no idea. Is it teacher, student? We can do this in the library class here before this person.get person ID. We can write here person dot get class dot get simple name, and we can have this. I can make it this way. Person dot get class dot get simple name. We could even simplify it, guys. If you could make here something like string, who is it? Who is it? And then you can get who is it, whether it's student or teacher. You can have some variable like this, because this get simple name will return the object behind this person. It could be teacher, it could be student. So now who is it? It could be a teacher, it could be a student. Take a look. So now it displays me teacher, 1 is added, student, 2 is added. I could write here student with ID or teacher with ID. So object get class get simple name returns the object type. So person's object type is teacher or student. When I call it here, it will add that person, that teacher, and then that object's class name is teacher. So who is it? Will be a teacher. So it displays here teacher with ID, and then teacher's ID, and then displays here is added. Let me know, guys, if you didn't really understand Clarity ZDJ or other online students. Did you understand?
Could
Yeah?
you please explain again get class, get simple name?
Yeah, let's do this. So right at this point on line 13, we're gonna register some object. It could be teacher, it could be student. In this case, it's teacher. So now here we move to this method, register member. When it's called, it calls this method, it moves here. Next, how many people do we have in this array list right now? We have there 0. We have never registered yet before. We are registering first time. So we add a person, a teacher. Now we have there one object, a teacher, physics teacher John Smith. So now we have there in this people's area list one teacher. And do you know which object was passed here? Teacher object or student object? Teacher object or student object?
Teacher.
It's teacher object. Right here, it's teacher object. So here, teacher object dot get class, it will return teacher and some numbers, but we would like to get the name of the class. So get simple name will return us. So let me go here inside it.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
I didn't catch up. Why it returns a teacher class?
yeah, let me just.
I
So
lost the catch.
we are discussing right this one, yeah? Like right this line. So we are passing here which object?
Yeah, teacher.
Teacher object. So then we add that teacher to that array list. And then person is a student, right? Is it a student or teacher?
Teacher.
It's teacher. So that if you would like to extract that teachers, that object's class name, then if you write get class, get simple name, it returns you some string. It returns you a string, which is a teacher. And then it displays us this. It displays us the teacher with ID 1 is added. Now let me try if I could do this. And then we move to this one. Now we pass which object, student or teacher? We pass here student. How many people do we have right now in the array list? Only one. So now we have 2. And then person is a student. It's a student. And we would like to extract this part, left part, student. We don't need this part. So the student object, if we call get class, get simple name, it returns student. Now we have this student. And then as long as you have the string, you can display that student is added. You can reuse this variable. Student with ID 2 is added. And then here in this lines 16, 17, and 18, do you think this really adds a book to the library?
No.
Not yet, because we don't have there in implementation. So what can be written here, guys, for add book as a logic?
The same as with the register member, right?
We can do pretty same thing. We can write here books, but add book. But do we need to do per book get class get simple name? What do you think? No, why? The reason is because we have only book type. We don't have DVD type. If we had DVD type, then we would need this. Get class, get simple name. For this part, we need this because we have 2 types of people. It could be teacher, it could be student. Here we know only books. Do we have DVDs in our project? No, that's why we don't need this get class. So here we can just write system out print line. We know it's always a book with ID and take the ID from given object. What's the ID of this book? Of this book? It's 1. So book with ID, book, get ID is added. All right, get it done, guys. Next, we will move to the other method.
What about the author? No?
No.
On existing, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
on existing program, which we execute,
Mm-hmm.
can we try to run it? Can we run this existing code?
What do you
Our
mean?
Program?
How do you know how do you run this project? We run it through this main method, yeah? Main method is an entry point for programs. So we run it from here. We already did it. If I run it now, it will display book with ID is added because we completed this part. We implement this add book.
In library management. In library we can run it.
We run it through the library management class. And we implemented this add book so that when you call it, it really adds that book to the collection in the library.
In this here public way to register a member, there are two parameters, right?
No, there is only one. Yeah, only one.
Can we to simplify, for example, only get, for example, teacher or student, person that get.
What do you mean?
There are two, it's net, right? We had class and get simple name.
Uh-huh.
Can we simplify it only with one method to call them? No?
I don't think so. Because it's a rule. To get that class name, we should write get class and then get simple name.
Get class retrieves us, what did you say? I forgot.
Get class retrieves us this. If we call only get class, then it will retrieve class day 63 library teacher. But I would like to get only this part, teacher part. That's why I call here get simple name. So now we have teacher and here student. Let me know.
Class, it removes, it means class name, right?
Yeah, it removes that part on the left. Let me know if you've done this one at the book.
Have idea.
Mm-hmm.
Can we, when we run this program, can we add like a system of print line? Total in library, we have like 3 books or 5 books.
Yeah, we can do it. And we will do it.
Ah,
Yeah, we have already this. We took it into account. So here we have display books, display people. So once you complete all of the methods, implementation for all of these methods, you can make it again menu based. You can make it click 1 to add a book, click 1 or click 2 to register member, press 3 to borrow a book, press 4 to return a book. Like later, once you complete this. So next, if we are on line 20, if we are on this line 20, how many people will be registered in this library?
2.
How many books will be registered? 3. Okay. So now we have their books and people. Let's do this. Let's call this library, borrow book. And then let's say there is a person sitting in front of a computer in the library. And then it's library official, library is in play. And then somebody approached them and told them, I would like to borrow this book. So first, they should know which person is it. Is it a teacher or student? We say teacher would like to borrow book 1. Let's do this. But instead of book 1, let's pass here just its ID. I can pass here 1. Which book's ID is it, guys? 1.
Effective Java.
Effective Java, right? Yeah. Write this.
Also, write all the name.
Next. Next, this. Let's run it. Do you think teacher borrowed this book, Effective Java?
No.
No, teacher didn't, because there is no implementation. All right. Next. Next is this. All right, let's do this. So now we need to implement this part. We have a person and we have book ID. Let's first do this. Person. Let's display the person's name and the book ID. We should write a logic here so that that book first should be checked if it's available. If it is available, then we can assign it to that person. But before assigning it to that person, we should check if that person is able to borrow that book by checking the number of borrowed books this person have. So let's just run this now to check. So John Smith would like to borrow a book with ID 1. Borrow book with ID 1. John Smith wants to borrow a book with ID 1. How can we borrow a book? Share me your ideas, guys. Share me your ideas. We have a person, we have a book ID.
Should we remove it from the library, the book?
We're not gonna, like, we can remove. It's up to us. We can remove it, then it would be stored, then nowhere. We don't have in the, or here we have it. Like, we can do it, but what I'm gonna do, I'll keep it in the library. It's gonna be theoretically there. Physically, it will be in the person's borrowed books, but it will be in the system still. So here, this, because if other people would like to borrow that book with ID 1, we'll display it's not available. So to check it, we will need to have it in the books error list. We don't need to remove it. If we remove it, and if you would like to borrow a book for a student, book with ID 1, probably we would display something like this book doesn't exist, but it exists. It's just borrowed by some person. Like we can do anything. We can make it removing from library. We can keep it, but let's keep it in the library object. I have one question. What do you think? This books, or let me go here. This favorite subject string, this property, does it belong to student class or student objects? Where it belongs to?
Student class.
So favorite subject belongs to student class or student objects?
Student class.
No,
Object.
it belongs to objects. If you remember, only static variables, they belong to class. It could be something like static int money box. Now this is something that belongs to class and it's shared with other all students. But this one belongs to object because each object will have their own copy. We can prove it by this. You told me it belongs to class, right? If I write here this class student dot, do you see here favorite subject? Definitely you don't see it. So it means it doesn't belong to class. It belongs to objects. They have favorite subjects. So here in the library, to borrow a book, what should we check? What are the things to check? We have a person. It could be teacher, it could be student. We need to check first few things before borrowing some book.
Is the teacher or a student?
If the book is available.
Let's write this, yeah. Is a book available? First thing, okay. And then if it's not available, we're not just moving forward. We'll just display book is not available. So where is my mouse? Okay. There are two outcomes, yes or no. If it's yes, then we check other thing. What's that other thing? If book is available. If book is available, should we assign that book to that teacher or student?
Yes.
No. What if what if I'm already out of available slots in my every list? What if I'm a student and I already have one book?
Then reject.
So we need to, if book is available, check if I have enough available space for a new book. If that book is available, then I need to check if student or teacher has available space for a new book. Let's say I already have 3 books that I borrowed. I would like to borrow 4th book. Fourth book is available. 4th book. I'm teacher, yeah. I have 3 borrowed books. And there is 4th book I would like to borrow. It turns out book is available. It's yes, book is available. If book is available, do I need to check whether I have, should that library check if I have enough space or if I'm able to borrow one more book? Should they check how many books I already borrowed, the number of books?
Yes.
Library should check if I already borrowed 3 books. If I didn't yet, then I can borrow the 3rd book or 2nd book or 1st book, but I can never borrow the 4th book. So I should check if student or teacher has available space for a new book. We can start from any of this. We can start from this one, checking if student or teacher has available, or this. So let's begin. Share me your ideas. What would you write here?
We need to use for each loop to check available or not.
What we need to do is this. I have only book ID. Do you have that book? We don't have. We have only its ID. We need to find that book. Where do you find that book from? I have ID. I have only ID. I I need to use this ID to find a book with this ID. So what do I use? There is some container I should use, and I look it up from that container.
Books container.
We need
Yeah,
to
it's
list books.
books, array list, books.
We need to check
array
it.
list. So I can use for I loop, and then we will use it outside of this for loop, outside. That's why better if I do this, guys, like let's do this first. If some book at some given index has ID of this book ID that we are looking for, book ID, then what? I can like do this book, like check if it's available or not. But then I'll need to add that book to the person. Later, I will need to do this person. Let me see, person that get borrowed books. All right. So let's guys at least complete this one. We have 20 more minutes. So this go to the person class. Go to this person class, and then here write this public void borrow book. Right here this, and right here this parameter, borrow book. Let me just take this one here, create this method. It's inside the person class. All right, let me know once you're done, guys. You done, guys? Did you create this method?
Yes.
So if person borrows a book, some book, this book should be added to the container of this person, to the array list that we have inside this person. Each person has a list of borrowed books. So we can do here book dot not books, borrowed books dot add book, and then we can display here person's name, get name, borrowed book with ID, book that get ID. Let me know, guys, once you're done. You need to complete the other part in the library class. All right, you done, Ziyadeji? All right, let's move to this part. So this for loop is used to find, guys. We use it to find book that we are looking for. So if I would like to borrow some book, if I would like to assign to teacher book with ID 1, I call this method borrow book. Then here we need to find that book. We need to find that book. This for loop is used to find book within books array list. We have a books array list, and we need to find a book from this array list, books array list. So we use this for loop. If we find that book, we can do this. We can do this. If we find that book, we could do something like this, but it's not the best idea. I'll show you why. We can do this, but then we'll need to use this book. We'll need to use this book outside of this for loop. I'll need to write here person. This for loop is used for what, guys? To find book only. It's used to find book only. Let's say I found that book right here. And then I found that book. Then I'll do here some checks, like if that book is available or not, if person has enough space in his container, then if this all checks are passed, then I call this person borrow book. But do you think I can access this book? I cannot access it. If it's created inside this curly braces, you cannot access it beyond this curly braces. You cannot access it outside of this curly braces. So we could solve it by creating its reference right here. We created reference here. And then we would assign the value here. Its reference, not object, its reference is created here. And then if we find that book, we assign it right here. Could there be a case when this for loop fails? It's not finding a book we are looking for. Let's say if I pass here 6, book ID 6, this for loop runs. Will this for loop find a book with ID 6? No, it will not find. Right? It will not find. Then, when you create this reference, is this an initialized for loop, initialized object? Did we initialize it?
No.
If I pass here 6, will this ever go to this line? Will this ever go to this line? No, because we will never find a book with ID 6. So if we never initialize this array, this object, then is it true that this object might be null? Might be null. If you don't initialize, it's null. But in case if you pass here 6, this book will be null. In case if I pass here 3, this book will not be null. Do you know why? The reason is because that book will be found. It will be found. And then we assign here that book that we have in the library with ID 3. So there is a case. Do you know, guys, that some exception that will be thrown if you would like to perform some action on a null thing. You know that exception, team? Exception that will be thrown if you perform some action on a null thing, null object. It is null pointer exception. So here we need to check if book is not null. If book is not null. and if book is available, what this book is available might return. If book is not now, might not
It
have been
is available.
initialized. All right, we should make it null this way actually. So it will be by default null. If we find that book, it's not gonna be null. It will have a book object as a value. But if we never find that book, this will be null. If this for loop fails, it means we never found that book. So here we need to check if we really found that book. What means this? If this is false, guys. If this is false, what does it mean?
It's not null. It's not
Book,
null.
book is not now.
It's not.
It's not found.
It's not empty.
If this will be false, let me do this. Let's discuss this. How this, in which case it could be null? It could be null if, it could be false. When this will be false? When book is
No.
null. Null is not equal to null means false. So in case if book will be null,
It's not
no,
null.
no. In case if it's null, it's really confusing for you right now, I know. So if it will be null, it means we never found this book. It means we never found this book. If it's null, it means we never found this book, but there might be a case that we found that book. If we even found that book, if book is not null, this.
No, it's not
No,
now.
you're not, it's confusing you. But if book is not null,
It's available.
it means inside this object, we have some value.
Mhm.
If it's not null, there is a value. There we have some value. It's like book 1 or book 2 or book 3. So book 3 object is not equal to null. Null is nothing. Book 3 is something. It has a value. So in this case, book 3 is not equal to null. This left part would be true. If we have that book, we still need to check if book is available. We need to check two things. If that book exists, first we check this, and then if that book is available, we check two things. What if that book doesn't exist? Then we don't need to check if it's available. If we found that book, we need to make sure that it's available. If these two things are met, then we can do this. We cannot assign it right away. Right? We cannot write here, borrow a book, and then this book. We cannot do this. We need to check one more thing here. We should check if this person can borrow this book. So, is it a student or a teacher, this person?
Teacher.
It's teacher. How many books can a teacher borrow? 3 books. So we need to check how many books this teacher has already borrowed. If this teacher has already borrowed 3 books, teacher cannot borrow more books. So we need to check if this person, what do we have inside this person as properties? ID, name, max books allowed, and then borrowed books.
Array.
We have this borrowed books. So here, max books allowed for a teacher will be always 3. What if we have inside this array list already 3 books? Will you be able to borrow a book as a teacher?
Yes.
If you have already there 3 books.
No.
You want
One
me?
more.
No.
4 books.
We can have only 3 books as a teacher. So here, if person that get borrowed books, what this will return? This. Let's take a look at here.
Not available.
Get,
Borrowed books. Book.
get, where is that? Get borrowed books. What does it return? Borrowed books.
Borrowed. Who through?
What is borrowed books?
Array list.
It's already.
It's an array list. Array list has a size. If this array list size is greater than or equal to persons get max allowed. Here we have two parts. This one is the number of books teacher already has in his container. This one, how many books can that teacher or student, it person can be a teacher, it can be a student. This is how many
Number of
books
book.
they can borrow. If it's not greater than this number, if it's less than, then we can perform this. Then we can do this.
Now, which topic we are doing? Exceptions, right?
Not exceptions. It's
Library management.
we're improving our logic to create some classes with objects and methods,
Training,
manipulation.
training our logic.
Is it possible to
Simplify.
what kind of
Uh,
what only we can create only
in 3 lines?
classes? Yeah, yeah.
No, of course no. No. If you have person, teacher, student, library management. I have here 5 classes. If I remove this person, teacher, and student, now you have library and library management. Student and teachers, they are gone. So how will you represent student and teacher? There is no way because you don't have them. So that's why they should be there. So let's try this. Library, borrow book. If I run it, inside this if, let me have something like this. Teacher borrowed a book. And if this will be printed, it should be printed because this is the first book borrowed by a teacher. Let me try running it. Teacher borrowed a book. Do you know why we were able to borrow a book? Because we have never borrowed a book before.
By a teacher.
Teacher, it's first book of the teacher.
What?
First borrowed book. If you will do this, student. So actually, it tells us teacher borrowed a book. Let's make it correct. How? It's a question that you should be able to answer. We have a person. Is it true that this person can be a teacher and a student? It could be a teacher or a student, not and. So how can I know whether it's teacher or a student?
Person that get class.
Class.
Yeah.
The class gets it.
String who is it, person that get class that get simple name. And I can pass it here. This who is it? I can pass it here. And then if I pass there a student, it displays me student borrowed a book. Let me show you this. If I would like to borrow a second book by the student, do you think student will be able to borrow another book?
No.
No, let's try. We run it. And we see here only once student borrowed a book. We don't see here the other second one because student cannot borrow more than 2. Because here we have done that logic. If book is available, what we can do here is this. So let's say this student borrows a book with ID 1. that book is already not available. It's not available. If teacher tries to borrow that book with ID 1, it will not display here teacher borrows a book. Teacher borrowed a book. Okay, that's interesting. So for student, it's displaying student. John Smith borrowed a book. John Smith borrowed book with ID 1. Student borrowed a book. Okay, okay. Yeah. So here we have the first part that here. Student borrowed a book. Then John Smith, Alice Johnson borrowed book with ID 1. Student 2 with ID book. Alice Johnson borrowed book with ID 1. Alan Johnson borrowed a book with ID 1. So I believe it's because here we have inside this borrow a book, this one, borrowed a book. So it displays Alice Johnson. Who is Alice Johnson? It's this student. Student's name is student's name is Alice Johnson. So that's why it displays first Alice Johnson borrow a book, because when you call this, if it finds that book before displaying this, it calls this method, borrow book. Inside this method, it displays this. Alice Johnson borrows a book with ID 1. So it means actually we don't need this part. This who is it part, because it's done. It displays here Alice Johnson borrow book with ID 1. Alice Johnson borrowed book with ID 1. And then John Smith borrowed book with ID 1. John Smith borrowed book with ID 1. Borrow a book. Borrow book with ID 1. Borrowed. Okay. Where do we get this borrow? Okay, it's right here. So actually, now we don't need this one because we put it inserted in the beginning just to see how it works. So now it displays me Alice Johnson borrowed a book with ID 1, but John Smith was also able to borrow that book with ID 1. Do you know why? Do you know, it's true that now teacher and student, they borrow the same book with ID 1 here and with ID 1.
Yes.
The reason is because in the library, when we borrow a book, we should make that book no more available. Set availability to false. It's no more available when it's borrowed. And then now it displays this text only once. It's not displaying that teacher borrowed that book. If I add here something like this, failed to borrow a book, it will display here failed to borrow a book. Failed to borrow because teacher failed to borrow this book. So what I'm gonna do, guys, is this. I'll commit this to my remote repository, base 63. It's there in that repository already. So let me do this. It's already in the internet. I don't know if you will be able to complete it. Like maybe you would want to complete it out of your curiosity. If you would like to, you can. There are like bunch of methods to complete. Return book, remove, find book. There should be also checks in the return book, but we didn't complete this borrow book ideally. If we are not able to borrow a book, we don't have this part. It's not displaying. Teacher was not able to borrow a book. We don't have this. We are calling it, it's not displaying. For example, for student, student cannot borrow second book, but it displays that student borrowed book with ID 2. So it's not like ideal, this one. So let's take a look. All right. And then I should actually make this. And then here we see once, but we don't see here error message like, oh, student cannot borrow the second book because student has already borrowed one book. And on Thursday, you have mock interviews. On Friday, I'm not sure what you're gonna have on Friday with Bahabayke, but like definitely from next week, you will start automation, test automation part. From
Joe,
next Monday.
excuse me. I have question. Can you show me library class to line 50 library class or 49 line maybe? Oh no 50. Yeah, get borrow books method where it created. Why is compiled? I didn't understand.
It's right
Yeah.
inside the person class as a getter. It's a getter for this property, borrowed books. So
Yeah,
getter for this property will be get borrowed books. Setter is set borrowed books.
Yeah. Can you scroll up, please? Maybe it's missed something in my.
What I can do is this. You have the link, right? For
Yeah, I know, but only this line is compiling, so I want just. Okay, I think I can find it. I rewatch class. Thank you.
Can I ask a question regarding the mock interview? So we have two interviewers. Will we have the same, like, for example, Bahabayke will also ask from the same question you provided for us,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's not gonna be exactly the same question.
Okay.
Yeah, but it will be similar question. Of course, if it's the same question, why you need this mock interview, right?
Yeah. So the scope will be same. Okay.
Yeah. So it will be similar questions. All right, guys. Then most likely I'm gonna after Thursday I'm gonna see you most likely maybe next Thursday, because on Monday you have test automation classes. All right. See you Thursday, guys. See you on Thursday, online students.
See you.
Bye.